We are roughly a week removed from the events of the 2024 NBA Draft, and in taking a look back at the Washington Wizards draft, I believe that the Wizards had not only one of the best drafts of the entire night, but one of the best drafts in their franchise history. So what I want to do today is go through the Wizards picks, player by player, examining their strengths, their weaknesses, their expectations, and the role I believe that they'll play in their rookie year. By the way, my name is Tyler, aka Wanzo TV. I'm a big Wizards fan, so let's get into it. First things first, let's take a look at the players the Wizards did draft. The Wizards ended up picking French big Alex Sarr with the 2nd pick, Baltimore, Maryland's very own Bub Carrington with the 14th pick, and Switzerland native Kyshawn George with the 24th pick. When I talk about the players more individually, I will also talk about how we acquired them in different trades, because these picks that we ended up with are not the picks that we entered the night with. But first off, let's start with French big Alex Sarr. Now, Alex Sarr was the one pick that we made where we didn't have to trade up or down to get our guy. However, that comes with a bit more baggage than just simply picking your guy too. Alex Sarr, to many in the draft, to many draft experts on Twitter, YouTube, whatever social media site, saw Alex Sarr as the #1 prospect in this draft. But what was different about Alex Sarr is that Alex Sarr had a desire to come to Washington, D.C. and a desire to play for the Washington Wizards. Now, I'm a diehard Wizards fan. I've watched 82 games in the past 4 years. I love my team. But I'm going to be honest, I was stunned to hear that somebody actively wanted to come to the Washington Wizards. Now, as much as I would love to just plug my ears and just assume Alex Sarr just really wanted to be a Wizard, it's a bit more complex than that, a bit more nuanced than that. There's some reasons why he didn't want to go #1 to Atlanta and wanted to come here, but I won't get into that now. The point is that Alex Sarr wanted to be a Wizard, and we made that happen with the 2nd overall pick. Now, getting into the more meat of Alex Sarr's game, I will run off a list of just the things that I saw pre-draft, this is his strengths and his weaknesses. I want to talk firstly about Alex Sarr and his defense, because that is what I believe is Alex Sarr's biggest strength. On the defensive end of the ball, Alex Sarr is a borderline elite rim protector even in year 1. And obviously standing at 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan, it's easy to see why he's such a good rim protector, but just beyond that, even his timing, his reflexes, and his ability to get to the ball are extremely impressive at his size. Per 36 minutes, Alex Sarr averaged 3.1 blocks per game, which is among the best in the NBL, even just at 19 years old. And he gets these blocks in a multitude of different ways, whether that be roaming as the big, whether that means in isolation, having a guy one-on-one, and he goes to the hoop and he blocks it off the rim. Well, Alex Sarr is liable to get any block at any time, anywhere on the floor. He's that good of a rim protector even at 19 years old. And beyond just his rim protection, Alex Sarr is a fantastic switch defender. Whether it be getting a switch in transition, getting a switch in the pick and roll, Alex Sarr is, while it's not great all the time, he at 7'1" might be one of the best switch defenders as a big in the league as a rookie. And just to kind of tie his whole defensive skill set into a knot here, Alex Sarr is extremely versatile. He really is a Swiss Army knife on the defensive end of the ball. And we see a lot of guys who are Swiss Army knives on the defensive side of the ball. But what we don't see is them being that Swiss Army knife as a 7'1" big man. Not to doom and gloom here, but that ability to be that Swiss Army knife, seeing himself guarding on the perimeter frequently, also limits his ability to defensive rebound. So if there really was one thing to nitpick with Alex Sarr's defensive bag, it would be his lack of positioning when he's trying to get defensive rebounds. When you're guarding on the perimeter, it's hard to get back for those defensive rebounds, which is really important. If you are the big man, you need to close those possessions, which Alex Sarr doesn't do all the time. But I think the Wizards helped shore that up when they acquired Jonas Valanciunas in the free agency to do that for Alex Sarr so he can be the true Swiss Army knife that he is. And in day 1, the first game of the season, Summer League, that will immediately pop if you're watching Alex Sarr. He is a fantastic defender, and it's something that I think will roll over almost seamlessly to the NBA. Now, switching over to the offensive side of the ball, this is where Sarr maybe comes with a bit more questions, but also comes with a bit of more upside potential. What I see as Alex Sarr's best strength on the offensive side of the ball is his play and transition. Now, I'll get into this a bit later, but I think Alex Sarr's ability to excel in transition works really well with how this Wizards team is currently constructed. Alex Sarr finishes very well in transition. He moves well with the ball in transition. He moves well without the ball in transition. I just think in transition, when he's playing free, when he's allowed to run, show off his athleticism, show off his length, I think it helps to maximize the player that Alex Sarr is on the offensive side of the ball. But where I think we run into some problems is when the game slows down and he's not able to push in transition, not able to use his 7'1" wingspan or 7'4" wingspan, 7'1" height, when he's not able to use his physical tools, his athleticism, I think that's where we're getting some issues in the half court. Now, I don't want it to make it seem like Alex Sarr is a bad finisher by any means, but I do think he can take it a level up from where it is currently. He's not the strongest guy in the world, so he struggles when he comes into contact. If there's like bigger, meatier defenders down there, Alex Sarr is not going to be able to finish extremely well in them. And overall, Alex just doesn't assert himself as much as he should on the offensive, and he kind of limits how he can get the ball down low. He's not a great pick and roll player. He's not the best screener in general, which obviously limits his ability to roll the hoop, get easy buckets that way. He's not the best post player when he gets the ball in the post. He's probably looking to shoot a jumper more than he is looking to go aggressive to the hoop. And I want to reiterate, Alex Sarr is not a bad finisher. I just think he can take it a step up from where he is right now, which kind of speaks to why we took him number 2 overall. Alex Sarr has the potential to be more than what he is right now. What he is right now is fine. But what's intriguing about Alex is that he has the ability to go beyond that. He maybe can create those chances, become a better pick and roll player, become more aggressive in the post, become a player who can score more effectively in the half court, especially when attacking the ball. And that's what's so intriguing about Alex Sarr. I do think I've negated it and kind of downplayed just Sarr's ability to like attack off the catch. Like if a point guard's dribbling and you catch Alex Sarr on the perimeter, I think Alex Sarr's ability to rip and go to the hoop is quite impressive, even if he's not the best finisher when he's just kind of stationary. And the reason why I think he's so good is so that he can kind of like use his momentum when he plays out, when he's catching it and ripping and going to the basket instantly. I think that kind of helps him out because it utilizes what he does good in transition, but puts it in a more half-court setting to where he can catch and rip and use his size, use his athleticism, use his like length to attack the hoop like that. And I do want to touch on his shooting here for a little bit. I know it's a really popular thing. A lot of guys want to say, oh, we got this 7'1" athletic guy. Can he shoot the ball? Alex Sarr can shoot the ball. Can he shoot it well? Not necessarily at the moment. In my opinion, his form isn't perfect, but I think it's projectable to where you can touch it up, work with it a little bit to make it that bit smoother. And I don't think Sarr by any means is ever going to be like a Miles Turner, stretch big type of guy. But I think if he has it in his bag to step out and hit a few jumpers every now and then, I think it only adds to his game. And beyond just being a three-point shooter, I think Alex Sarr has the ability to kind of work in that mid-range area if he's getting it in the post. I think he can kind of turn around, work himself around the basket to where he can kind of make that shot. If he has a smaller defender on him, just kind of shoot over him like that in the mid-range. I think that's something that he can definitely work into his bag, and it's kind of already there now. But I just want to touch on Alex Sarr. Is not the best shooter right now, but I think it can get to a point where it's serviceable. Now, to end off with Alex Sarr, I want to end up talking about his role this season, his expectations this season, and the growth spots I expect him to take this season. Starting with Alex Sarr's role, I do see him starting at the 4 next to Jonas Valanciunas, because as I mentioned a bit earlier, Alex Sarr with somebody with Jonas Valanciunas' skill set at the 5 just maximizes him at the 4 and kind of lets him show off his skills a bit more. Now, with that said, I do want to see him play at the 5 at times as well. While I do think he'll start at the 4, him playing the 5 in different bench lineups I think would be super beneficial for him. And just to tie it all off, I do want to see him get 25 to 30 minutes. I don't know the exact minutes I'd like to see him at the 5 versus the 4, but just I want him to see him playing both positions and playing a lot, obviously, as a number 2 pick. Now, this might be more of a selfish expectation on my part, but as a Wizards fan, we have not seen a rookie be in like all rookie of the year running since Rui Hachimura in 2019. So I would love to see Sarr as the highest pick since John Wall be in the running for the rookie of the year. Obviously, it's not the end all be all. At the end of the day, it is a media award. That's no indication of how he's going to progress in his career. But selfishly, as a Wizards fan, I would love to see Alex Sarr hit that rookie of the year and at least at minimum get an all rookie team app. Then statistically, I would like to see him put up double digits. I think in time, it'll show that I was underballing with the double digit thing, and I'll probably get a bit higher than that. But just as a floor, I would like to see him touch double digits, as well as get at least a block game. I think those are very easy expectations that he should hit his mark on. Then just finishing it up here, these are just some things that I would like to see him grow as the season goes on. Obviously, I want him to get bigger, add on, I'd say like 5-10 pounds of muscle, just get bigger, get stronger as the season, and we can see that as the season goes on. And these are all progressive things that I'd like to see get better as the season progresses. Defensive rebound. If he doesn't come out and he's not on the boards crazy right now, that's fine. But in March, in April, I want to see him on the board just that little bit more. So just improving on the things that he's lacking that I talked about a bit earlier, improving those things as the season goes on would be perfect. Now let's transition to talking about the number 14th overall pick, Bub Carrington. Now, similar to Sarr, I'm just going to run off here what I saw as his strengths and his weaknesses coming in pre-draft. But to start, I want to talk about Bub Carrington's ability on the offensive side of the ball. In this current era of team building, the hot commodity for a lot of GMs across the league is the long, do-it-all wing, which is where I saw this front office was kind of going. We drafted Bilal last year, kind of fits that mold. I'll talk about it later, but we drafted Kyshawn George, who kind of fits into that mold. And when you look at those guys, something they lack is self-creation. And even I myself am guilty of lusting over these do-it-all wings. And I was just kind of set on the idea that, okay, we can get all these wings who have defensive abilities, playmaking chops, and we can worry about the self-creation later. But when Will Dawkins and Michael Winger went out and drafted Bub Carrington, I knew immediately that I did not have to worry about that. Bub Carrington is a genuine NBA-level creator on the offensive side of the ball. And where Bub shines the most out of that is in the pick and roll. Bub is a fantastic pick and roll player. Bub has an incredibly tight handle, which makes it very easy for him to leverage different screens and get to the spots where he needs to get. And let me tell you something, Bub has a spot that is almost automatic. When Bub comes off these screens, he gets into his mid-range shot off the dribble, which is almost automatic, genuinely. He shot 50.9% from that off the dribble 2-point coming off a pick and roll screen, which would not only be impressive for like a 22-year-old senior in the ACC, let alone a 19-year-old freshman in the ACC. I really can't exaggerate it enough. If you are ever, I know a lot of people like to go to sleep to like different satisfying things, whether it be like the cutting soap videos. If you want a new type of that, go watch Bub Carrington mid-range shot compilation. It is one of the most satisfying things you will see in your entire life. But going to the mid-range is not the only thing Bub could do out of these pick and rolls. Bub was also a solid playmaker out of the pick and roll. While I don't think the reads were always super detailed where he's making like the pass through 3 different bodies, they were more standard reads, pass it if 2 defenders come at me, I can dish it off to the big. But even still, the idea of him being a playmaker down the line is very real. He also projects as a good 3-point shooter. While the volume necessarily wasn't there or the percentages in college, in the combine at the NBA draft combine, he did shoot very well from the drills at the 3-point line, which obviously isn't a direct indicator that's a very small vacuum of shots. I think it shows that Bub can get a shot off from 3. He just wasn't operating at the best space at Pittsburgh in college. But that isn't to say Bub isn't without his ills on the offensive side of the ball. Bub struggles to put pressure on the rim. While I do think Bub's touch is okay once he gets to the rim, the issue for Bub is actually ended up getting to the rim. He isn't super strong right now. He's a slender guy. He's only 6'5", and when he goes up to go to the hoop, he's getting banged around. He's easily pushed off his spots, which is something that I would like to see him develop through this season. And on the defensive side of the ball, I don't think Bub is a liability, but I don't think he's necessarily a strong defender either. He kind of just operates in that in-between area. But for Bub to be a consistent contributor on the floor, I think he is going to need to improve just that little bit on defense, just getting in his stance. And I think overall, getting more strength on him, getting him to be heavier will help him in the long run, which is obviously, I think that's almost a guarantee to happen. He'll get in the weight room, get stronger, but that will also help him on the defensive side of the ball where he's just kind of wishy-washy right now. And that's what you're getting in Bub Carrington. You're getting a genuine self-creator who is fantastic out of the pick and roll, a guy who can make the right pass with potential to maybe get more advanced reads out of that pick and roll, as well as that he's a guy who's capable on the defensive side of the ball, but also has the potential to get stronger, which will also help him with his rim pressure issues down the line. So you're looking at a guy who can genuinely be a starting guard for the Washington Wizards in the future. Now, like Sarr, I also want to go through that list where I talk about how I see Bub's role fitting in, his expectations, and just the areas of growth I would like to see over these. Now, starting with Bub's role, I don't see Bub sneaking into the starting lineup. We have Malcolm Brogdon, we have Jordan Poole. I don't know how that lineup will fit, if it's Poole starting, if it's both guards starting. Either way, I don't really see Bub getting into that starting lineup. So what the role I would like to see Bub in is the lead creator off the bench. And I really do think this is just a perfect role for Bub. I think it's good for him in his rookie year, and I think it maximizes his ability as a basketball player to create his own shot, where he doesn't have to worry so much about the personnel on the floor, and he can kind of just do his own thing off the bench as the main guard off the bench. Now, as well as that, I don't know how the minutes are exactly going to shake out. I have on here 20 to 25. I don't know if that'll be more. I don't know if that'll be less. Just a rough estimation. But as well as that, I would like to see Bub in lineups that maximize his potential as a creator, which, like I said, coming off in that lead bench role, I think does that very well. So just something like that would be perfect for Bub. Also, I don't see Bub stepping foot in the G League this year. I think our guard room is weak enough to where he will get consistent minutes off the bench. And we traded a lot to get him. He was part of the Denny Avdia trade. So he's going to be in the lineup every single night getting heavy minutes, hopefully. A lot of the expectations just kind of reinforced what I talked about with his role, but one thing I do want to focus on is I want to see Bub's efficiency in the mid-range area specifically stay strong. Obviously, rookies will struggle with efficiency. That's just kind of the way of the world in the NBA, but if Bub can kind of stay in that like 45-50 range with those pull-up twos in the pick and roll, that would be beautiful. And as well as that, selfishly, like again, I would love to see Bub push for all rookie consideration. Now, finishing up with the growth spots. Obviously, I think I talked about this quite a bit when I was talking about him earlier. Him getting stronger, him putting on weight is probably the biggest thing for him this season. And if we can see that as the season goes on, that would be perfect for him. As well as that, I do want to see him get to the rim more. That'll be something progressive that we'll see in the season. If he's not doing it in November, I'd love to see him do it more in March. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of a just progressive thing as the season goes on with everything, as well as the passing. If he's not making the advanced reads in November, I would love to see him make those advanced reads, or at least try to make those advanced reads in March. So just a steady progression in the things he's lacking would be perfect for Bub. Now to finish up, let's talk about number 24 overall pick, Kyshawn George. Now, I don't want to discredit Bub or Alex, but when I look around the NBA, there are guys that do what Bub does. There are guys that do what Alex does. I don't know how many guys in the NBA currently can do or project to do what Kyshawn George does and how he does it. Kyshawn is just, in a weird way, a very odd and unique player. Starting off, Kyshawn really doesn't have like a defined position. He's 6'8", he has a shifty handle, he's very agile with the ball in his hands, but he's 6'8", like I said, so he doesn't really know if he could probably play guard, he could probably play the wing. He's just unique. You don't really know what he is going to end up playing for the majority of his NBA career. However, his main skill doesn't really have to do much with what position he plays. Kyshawn George is a genuine sniper. His shot is extremely fluid, he gets it off fast, and he had good percentages in college, shooting around 40%, granted on low volume. Now, most of that was done off the catch, and he does struggle a bit making his shots when he's coming off the dribble. Very kind of anti-Bub, as I was talking about earlier. But he is a genuine shooter, especially off the catch, which is probably the role that you'll see him in the NBA most, especially early on. Now, where Kyshawn gets a little funky is just his guard and playmaking ability at 6'8". I can't stress it enough. His handle is insanely shifty. If you watch enough basketball, some guys just pop as having that kind of shift to their dribble, and Kyshawn has that tenfold. And that fluid handle kind of shows itself with his ability to play make the ball. I feel like he makes the right passes often, and a lot of his passes just kind of have this like, they look super easy. A lot of his lob passes almost look like he's setting a volleyball with how easy it makes it look, and how like his touch is incredible passing the ball. But to add another element to the weirdness of Kyshawn's game, he has this size, he has this handle, he has the shooting ability, but he's not a great athlete. When he's using his handle and his dribble to create for himself off the dribble, it almost looks like he has ankle weights tied to his ankles, and it looks like he's almost going in slow motion. Now, I do think his functional athleticism not being like upper echelon is a bad thing in general, but I bring up his athleticism with the ball in his hands not so much as a negative, but just as like an observation as to why he's so weird. Just in kind of picking the brains of either my friends or just kind of poking around on Twitter, watching film for myself, something that keeps popping into my head as I've gathered more pieces of different elements of his game is a comp to Kyle Anderson's slow-mo. Now, obviously the comp is not perfect. As I said, Kyshawn is a shooter. Kyle Anderson obviously is not a shooter. Kyshawn has a handle. Kyle Anderson does not have a handle. So there's obviously some differences there. But the main thing I bring it up as is just how they kind of move in the ball and how they kind of like slow down the game around them. It feels like he has a superpower to go in slow motion. But then what's so intriguing about Kyshawn George is what Kyle Anderson fails at, besides being like the slow-mo guy that he is, obviously shooting the ball with his handle. I think Kyshawn George is like the active anti to that. He has a very good handle. He has a very good jumper. So he's kind of Kyle Anderson in the way he moves. But on the flip side, he does everything that Kyle Anderson does bad very good, which is super fun and intriguing. I do want to touch on the defense just really quick here. I've seen the term 3-and-D be thrown around when describing Kyshawn. I don't necessarily know if he fits that bill. I don't think he's that type of a defender yet. I think that's a projectable role for Kyshawn, where he can kind of be the three-point shooting guy on the offensive end and then go down on the defensive end and play good defense. But at the moment, I don't necessarily think that. I think he's kind of like Bub, where he's just kind of operates in that mid-tier range, where he's not necessarily a lead defender, but he's definitely not a liability on that end. And I think as he gets stronger, just like all other guys, Sarr and Bub, I think obviously his defense will improve. So I think it's not necessarily an area of concern, but just something that's not a strength, if that makes sense. To me, Kyshawn George is probably the most fun and interesting prospect we have. He might not be the best, he could very well be the worst, but he is one of the most interesting and fun guys to me. A 6'8" guard wing hybrid who can shoot the ball, has playmaking chops, can't really move really fast. He's just such an interesting guy, and I will be so excited to see how he plays both in Summer League and in his rookie year. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about how I predict Kyshawn George's rookie season will look. Now, as for his role, I think it's a bit funkier than the other two. I think there was a clear path to minutes for both Bub and Sarr. I don't necessarily see that with Kyshawn. We have a bit of overlap positionally. Bilal is still there. Kyle Kuzma's still there. So I don't know if he's going to be a automatic contributor off the bench, but I do think he should be a regular rotation guy, especially with him being a first-round pick. But if Kyshawn doesn't immediately find that bench role with the main Wizards, I think it's perfectly fine for him to go down to the Capital City Go-Go and kind of get his game off down there, develop maybe his handle, get working on the shot some more, work on maybe developing more 3-level scoring aspects, getting kind of a mid-range shot, getting a floater, and just overall working on his game in the Go-Go. Being fully honest, I don't have too much of an expectation for Kyshawn George. At the end of the day, he was a late first-round pick, so it's not like I expect him to be an all-star or anything. Obviously, same sort of thing. I'd love him to push for all rookie teams. That would be ecstatic. But I don't really have too many expectations to put on Kyshawn George early. If anything, I would like to see him kind of keep that 3-point percentage up. But like I said, late first-round pick, not too much expectations there. Now, for his growth spots, I can't stress this enough with both Bub, Sarr, and Kyshawn. They need to get stronger. They need to put on weight. That's a general theme for every single pick. And that's going to reflect how the Wizards development team looks. If you see these guys putting on weight and getting stronger and you see that in their games, then you can look at the development team and say, wow, what a great job that they're doing. So that's going to be a big thing for them. Like I said, Kyshawn is a funny game. I don't know if I can pinpoint too many growth areas I can see outside of that. But just seeing him get stronger would obviously be a huge, huge plus. And that's really all I got. If you didn't have a pulse on some of the rookies coming in, I hope this video did a good job in kind of getting you a feel for them, getting a taste. Obviously, I couldn't touch on everything in this video. Scouting is very nuanced. There's a lot of these guys' games that I couldn't touch on just now in this video. But I hope I kind of gave anyone watching just a good pulse on how to feel about these rookies and just how to expect their game to come in and immediately contribute. But yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. I got a bunch of new videos coming out. This is the off season, but I'm still cooking up. Once the Summer League roster drops, whenever the Wizards want to do that, they haven't done it, and the Summer League is in 5 days, so I don't know when they're going to do that. But whenever they do that, I'm going to make a video breaking down that. There's a bunch of Olympic stuff going on. I got a bunch of videos planned, so if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. But yeah, this is Wanzo, aka Tyler, big Wizards fan. I'll see you next time.